Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a really influential book, The Joy of Sex, the Ultimate Revised Edition.
That's right. A book that honestly changed a lot about how people talked about and maybe thought about intimacy.
Absolutely. And our goal here isn't just to, give a summary. We want to pull out the key ideas that could genuinely help you, our listeners, enhance your own understanding, maybe answer some questions you've had.
And maybe dispel some myths, too.
Yeah,
Because there are plenty out there.
definitely. It's interesting thinking about when this book first came out, isn't it?
Oh, completely. You have to picture a world where just talking openly about sex was, well, difficult. Censored, even.
Right. Books that seemed pretty tame now faced legal battles.
Exactly. So The Joy of Sex was quite revolutionary in its frankness. The author even talked about sexual bibliotherapy, using books to fight guilt and lack of knowledge.
Which is fascinating because today you'd think information is everywhere, right? Online, media.
It is, but that doesn't mean the anxieties just disappear.
No, you still get those worries, don't you?
Yeah.
Am I doing this right? Am I missing out on something? Is there some pressure to try everything?
That's the shift, isn't it? The source material suggests that maybe basic sexual behavior hasn't changed all that much over time.
Really? Despite all the talk?
Well, the fundamental drives might be quite constant. What has been a massive game changer, undeniably, is reliable contraception.
Ah, okay. Separating reproduction from recreation.
Precisely. That's probably had a huge impact on how people approach sex. More freedom, maybe different expectations.
So with all this openness now, what's the value of a book like this today, if behaviors haven't shifted that much?
I think it's about normalization and perspective. The original aim, that bibliotherapy, was fighting guilt from lack of information.
Uh,
Now, the anxiety might be different. It's less, am I normal, and maybe more. A kind of sexual indigestion, as the book puts it. Too much information, pressure to perform or experience everything.
Sexual indigestion. I like that. It captures that feeling of being overwhelmed. So what core principles does the book offer to cut through that noise for achieving, well, joyful sex?
The absolute central message is incredibly freeing, I think. It basically says, the whole joy of sex with love is that there are no rules, so long as you enjoy, and the choice is practically unlimited.
No rules. That sounds good.
Right. And it deliberately skips long discussions on very niche stuff. The thinking is, if you're really into something specific, you probably already know about it or where to find info.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not trying to be an encyclopedia of everything. But what about people who are curious, who want to experiment? The hardy experimentalists, as it calls them.
Yeah, for them, the advice is kind of like, treat this like a cookbook. Explore, try things out.
A cookbook for sex.
Sort of. And the reassuring part is, unlike rich food, experimenting sexually between consenting adults carefully doesn't usually lead to obesity or ulcers.
Oh.
But, and this is important, it stresses having a steady basic diet first. Regular, loving intercourse. That's the foundation for adventure.
Master the basics before you get fancy.
Exactly. So the target audience isn't necessarily beginners, but more adventurous and uninhibited lovers.
People ready to explore.
Yeah. It assumes some basics are covered. You're comfortable with nakedness, you have time and privacy, you're okay with things like genital kisses, and crucially, there's mutual affection.
Which brings us straight to that connection between love and sex. The book seems pretty clear on that.
Oh, absolutely. It flat out says you don't get high-quality sex without love. Whether the love comes first or grows because of the intimacy,
Yeah.
it needs to be there.
And it talks about feedback. What's that about?
It's that intuitive dance,
Yeah.
the stop and go, tough and tender, exertion and affection. It comes from really knowing your partner, having that empathy.
Something you probably won't get with a one-night stand.
Exactly. The book warns against expecting that level of feedback with a stranger. It takes time and connection.
So just having technical skill isn't the main thing.
Not at all. Skill and variety are great, but they're no substitute for tenderness. And the book makes a big point. Tenderness can't really be taught from a manual. It grows out of that emotional bond.
Okay, let's shift to pleasure itself.
Yeah.
Solo and mutual. The book has this concerto idea.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Lovemaking as a concerto where both partners can be soloists. It really highlights the woman's active role, pushing back against those outdated ideas of female passivity.
So it's not just about the man performing.
Not at all. And it says solo activities like masturbation or coital solos, like the woman being on top, aren't separate things. They're part of the whole picture.
Integrated.
Right. Even things like mutual masturbation or genital kisses are seen as fully fledged duets.
An orgasm. Does it distinguish between solo and partnered climax?
It suggests solo orgasms have a different quality. Maybe sharper but not so round is the phrase used. Not better or worse, just different. And people who enjoy both often like alternating.
Okay, so lots of variety encouraged, but is there still a sort of main dish?
Yeah. Yes. It playfully calls the good old face-to-face matrimonial with mutual orgasm, preceded by tenderness, the pièce de résistance,
The classic.
the classic. Other positions and techniques are framed as special variations, good for specific occasions or specific purposes, like maybe helping a man delay orgasm.
What about advice for people who might be less experienced, maybe a bit clumsy? It talks about gentleness.
Yes, definitely. It addresses that initial awkwardness, advises against grabbing or rushing things. The key insight is that lighter touch often works much better, especially early on.
Lighter's better.
Initially, yes, but then it also warns against being too gentle. Sometimes you need sufficient pressure, especially with hands.
Finding the balance.
Exactly. Start gently, explore the skin, then increase intensity as arousal builds. And it notes that pain sensitivity drops during orgasm, so you need to be extra gentle right after.
Makes sense.
And for anyone who feels they are a bit heavy-handed, it even suggests practicing lighter touch on, say, an orange or something.
Really. Practicing on fruit.
Well, the idea is just to develop that sensitivity. Because going back to tenderness, if it could be easily taught, the book implies half the advice wouldn't be needed.
So it comes back to that connection again.
And communication, telling each other what feels good. Strength in sex isn't brute force, it's skillful, caring touch.
Okay, let's talk about male and female responses. The book suggests there are some typical differences in triggers.
It does. It observes that while both respond physically, women's arousal might often start differently. Breasts, skin, overall touch, those can be key pathways, sometimes even before direct clitoral focus.
Interesting.
And hugely important for many women is who's doing the touching. The person matters immensely.
And men, how can they be more aware?
Well, the book suggests men's visible arousal can sometimes make them hurry, maybe miss some of the woman's cues.
Right.
But it also notes women can often learn or program turn-ons by seeing what works on their partner, making them potentially quite adaptable. And it encourages men to provide guidance and reassurance if their partner seems hesitant.
It even describes the penis from a woman's view in a unique way.
Yeah, as a shared possession with personality, unpredictable movements, and moods. It's not just anatomy, it's part of the intimate connection. And penetration is valued for closeness, even if it doesn't always lead to her orgasm directly.
Let's touch on hormones briefly. How do they fit in?
The book gives a quick rundown. Testosterone for desire and energy in both sexes. Oxytocin, the cuddle hormone for bonding, though maybe lowering desire right after orgasm.
Okay.
And prolactin, sort of the, okay, done now, time to rest hormone. It also mentions cycle changes, menopause, contraception, stress, all influencing desire.
But they don't run the whole show.
Exactly. That's the reassurance. Hormones influence mood, sure. But actions, communication, lovemaking itself, these can often navigate or even offset imbalances. It's about understanding and knowing help is there if the machine falters.
Understanding yourself, your own preferences, seems key too.
Totally. The book acknowledges the wide range people have, maybe attraction to different genders, how preferences can change. It encourages you to know the difference between just being curious and having a strong desire.
And talking about it.
Always talking about it, and seeking support if you need it. The core idea, the joy of sex, is rooted in knowing who you really are.
And that leads to confidence, doesn't it?
True sexual confidence, yeah. Which the book defines as being relaxed, knowing yourself, wanting to learn about your partner, being able to ask for what you need, take charge sometimes, and handle occasional disappointments.
And importantly, it's not about looks.
Absolutely not. It tackles those media-driven body anxieties head-on. Your partner is usually way more focused on sensation and feeling accepted than on whether you match some impossible ideal.
That's really important. Now, this natural perfume idea, the cassolette, tell me more.
It's quite poetic, isn't it? A woman's unique natural scent as a major sexual asset coming from the whole body. Men might be strongly drawn to it. Women might have a more subtle sense of whether a man's scent is appealing.
Pheromones.
Exactly, underlying chemistry. The book suggests it can be a subconscious signal, even indicating arousal.
So maybe don't overdo the deodorant.
Huh. Well, it recommends basic hygiene, soap and water, but cautions against masking everything completely. It even mentions underarm hair potentially helping retain that natural scent. Opinions vary on that, of course.
Let's quickly run through some erogenous zones the book highlights.
Okay. Vulva, stroking, sucking, licking, vibrator use, mentions the perineum and U-spot too. Breasts. Sensitivity varies hugely. Size is irrelevant. Orgasm is possible just from breast stimulation for some.
Right.
Buttocks. A major zone for both sexes, often needs firmer touch than breasts.
Yeah.
Penis. Source of fascination. Addresses size, anxiety, thickness, often matters more than length. Flaccid doesn't predict direct.
Good points.
Earlobes. Surprisingly sensitive, a hotline via the vagus nerve, especially for women. Armpit, classic spot for kisses. Pheromone concentration.
A quick tour. What about sex and general health?
It advises seeking privacy if you need intimacy in hospitals, things like that, and encourages talking openly with doctors, maybe challenging blanket no sex advice if passion matters to your well-being. Good sex often supports good health.
This sex map concept from John Money. What is that exactly?
It's the idea that we each build a unique mental blueprint of what sex means, what a partner should be like, what should happen, shaped by everything, experiences, emotions, culture.
Our personal sexual landscape.
Exactly. You instinctively know what draws you in, what pushes you away. Includes fetishes, too.
And how does that relate to compatibility?
Compatibility isn't about being identical. It's about looking in the same direction. Complementary preferences, agreeing on the importance of sex, having similar boundaries. Alignment matters more than frequency.
And if it's not aligned?
Well, the book suggests sexual incompatibility later in a relationship often signals deeper issues, like loss of love. Maintaining that fit can protect the relationship.
What about desire itself? How does it grow or fade?
It often grows through feeling appreciated, feeling desired, lowering emotional walls. If desire is mismatched right from the start, that might be a fundamental issue. But temporary dips in long relationships are normal stress, fatigue, life stuff. Major persistent loss of desire needs attention, could be medical, hormonal, or relationship problems. Don't ignore it.
And desire can feed itself.
Often, yes. Desire likes space and encouragement. And sometimes the more sex you have, the more you want.
The book talks about a spectrum of love, too.
Yeah, beautifully. From deep interdependence to just a single, enjoyable night. It's all valid within consensual connection. Tenderness, respect, consideration.
Okay, crucial topic. Safe sex. The book doesn't shy away.
Not at all. It lists STIs, consequences, makes it clear risk comes from fluid exchange, saliva, blood, semen, vaginal fluids, penetration, broken skin, oral sex, all carry risks.
So protection is key.
Absolutely. Condoms, male and female, dams, gloves, it gives condom tips, and stresses if a partner refuses protection. Big red flag.
Good advice.
Also, clean toys, check yourself for symptoms, get checked immediately if worried, tell partners if infected, regular checkups even if you think you're monogamous. It also briefly mentions safer use of tech for erotic stuff. No fluid exchange there.
What about sex and water? Pool. Sea.
Acknowledges the appeal, weightlessness, but points out challenges. Water coolness can affect erections, risk of infections from seawater, irritation from chlorine, sand. Condoms might slip or get damaged.
Not inherently safer.
Definitely not. Still need infection-free partners and contraception if needed.
The book calls the bed domestic sexual equipment.
Yes, the most important piece. Discusses the firmness dilemma, sleep versus sex. Suggests compromise or two beds. Huge beds aren't necessarily better.
What makes a bed sex-friendly, then?
Correct height mattress level, with man's pubic bone standing beside it. Maybe tall posts for bondage play. Sturdy, non-squeaky frame. The simple joy of being able to reach for each other anytime. Having a single bed for illness is handy too.
Let's touch on touch itself. Caresses.
Extreme lightness. Fingers, toes, hair, eyelashes. French style, using just fingertips. Friction rubs or shampoo, gentle massage with oil. Feathers soft for delicacy, wiry for arousal. Aphrodisiacs more symbolic or scent-based. No guarantees from food itself.
And fantasy. It's not just for the undersized.
Definitely not. The book debunks that myth. Fantasies are often about things we won't do. Safe exploration, directing your own inner movie, often forbidden or impossible stuff.
Breathing can influence orgasm.
Yes. Men can use slow belly breathing to hold back, short, sharp mouth breaths to push towards it. Women can alter breathing to help climax too. Holding breath increases arousal slightly, but never block a partner's airway.
Air itself is a stimulant.
Intense sensation on wet skin, like saliva and breath. Careful with earlobes, breathe in gently. Steady exhale elsewhere. Hair dryer on cool is mentioned with major safety warnings. No blowing into orifices.
Love bites, snips.
Love bruises or suction kisses. Practice on your palm first. Check consent. Careful with sharp nips or biting genitals, especially during orgasm, risk of jaw spasm. Redirect the urge if needed.
What about forcefulness? Playfully, I mean.
Addresses the awkwardness some feel. Cautions against confusing erotic energy with real anger. Use play, not real fights, for that energetic need. Talk about it. Pillow talk is great for exploring fantasies. Love wrestling can be fun for some.
Handwork techniques.
For her, rhythmic finger moves, stretching lips, clitoral focus, full hand penetration, fisting, requires practice, trust. For him, values a woman who can masturbate him skillfully, intuitively, controlling pace and pressure.
Genital kisses.
Seen as deeply moving for a man. Jade flute mentioned for fellatio. Notes preferences vary regarding tongue-lip contact on the glands.
Intercourse alone isn't always the answer for orgasm.
No, definitely not. Avoid should or must about female orgasm via penetration only. That's a red herring.
Soixante enough, 6 knots.
Discusses it. Drawbacks. Hard to fully let go, potential biting. Anatomically tricky for optimal tongue work sometimes. Taking turns might work better for climax.
Contraception gets another brief mention.
Yes, beyond condoms, pill, injections, implants, patches, emergency contraception, IUDs, diaphragms caps, sterilization, stresses needing expert guidance for most of these.
The choreography of intercourse.
Once joined, it's about subtle negotiation. Depth, speed, pattern, touches, murmurs, breathing. Deepest isn't always strongest. Shallow penetration, varied speeds matter too.
Those trigger points, GAU spots.
Acknowledges the controversy, suggests exploration if curious, but if they don't work for someone, don't push it, causes anxiety. Gives brief guidance on finding the G-spot.
Woman astride positions.
Gives her control movement, depth, pace, variations. Facing, backing, kneeling, circular moves. Needs a stiff erection to avoid injury.
Rear entry position.
Advantages. Depth, buttock stimulation. Hand access to breast clitoris. Visual aspect. Caution if she has a weak back. Classic kneeling, gentler, lazy position mentioned. Encourages exploring the range.
Anal play, pastillionage versus intercourse.
Pastillionage, finger, tongue, toy stimulation of anus. Symbolic intimacy, nerve endings, prostate, male G-spot. Needs lubrication, gentleness. Anal intercourse, historical taboo context. Need lots of lube, anal-specific condoms, relaxation. Describes positions, crucially. Emotional support, go slow, respect stop signals for all anal play.
Hair trigger trouble, premature ejaculation.
Common, especially with new partners, can be medical, often mental anxiety, eagerness. Advises against numbing creams. Suggests pause squeeze technique or relaxing pelvic floor. Long term. Relearning response via solo masturbation, focusing on signals, then practice with partner.
Understanding female orgasm.
Don't obsess over types. Focus on what works for the individual. Relaxation, lack of worry are key brain sphere centers quieten. Explains why orgasm often easier in long-term relationships. Suggests letting her lead initially to teach him. Gradual approach if intercourse orgasm is tricky.
Bird song at morning, sounds during orgasm.
Don't quote your partner maybe, but recalling sounds can be intimate. Notes cross-cultural consistency, dying, mother, religion references. Calls it a spiritual moment. Growls, whispers. Learn to interpret. Stop if go on. Charming, mostly. Some like to yell or be dagged.
Combining fantasy with intercourse.
Suggests gentle coitus while each describes a wilder fantasy. Safe space to explore, learn partner's needs. Caution. Don't record these. Set rules if it feels too vulnerable. Never use it in anger later. Uncontrollable laughter, usually not personal.
Little death, passing out after orgasm.
French term, la petite mort, can happen to both sexes. Not unpleasant, but a learning for inexperienced partners. Usually not a cause for alarm.
Multiple orgasms.
Many women can have them with continued stimulation. Suggests moving away from the supersensitive clitoris after the first one, maybe to the U-spot. Men have a refractory period partner can take over with hands-mouth. Reassurance, not pressure.
The energetics of sex, tiring or energizing.
Least tiring physical recreation for energy spent, book claims. If drained, check attitude or sleep. Sex can be sedating or energizing. Plenty of sex makes for better sex, regulates male orgasms, speeds female response. Health benefits too, heart, mood.
Simultaneous orgasm,
Yeah.
necessary.
Nope. Downplays it. Most couples don't always achieve it. Not a must.
Cookies.
Have charm. Rely on learn mutual turn on, often developed in longer sessions. Inspirational, quickie, spontaneous, wordless connection. Embrace it. Needs posture proficiency, maybe without undressing fully.
Holding back. Controlling orgasm.
Not about consciously stopping, more about sustaining near orgasmic tension. If it fades, return to normal movement. If complete fusion happens, extraordinary feeling. Aim is relaxation, self-loss, like sexual yogis. Play with relaxation techniques.
Okay, a final quick round on various settings and styles.
Sure. Playtime, sex is adult play, Japanese style, traditional art focus, modern era manga, horse, erotic association, playing horses, Indian style, tantra presence, breath, feeling arousal, not chasing orgasm, virginity, changing significance, clothes, nakedness norm but clothes as turn-ons, texture symbol, G-string, shoes, careful with spikes, stockings, just tease, prelude, gift, ice and fire, skin stim, safety first, body paints, decoration, fun, skin club symbols, massage, ticklers, penis devices, mixed reactions, games, overcome doubts via rules, masks, inspiration, fetishes, needs for response, equipment, have things handy, mirrors, chairs, jokes, follies, laughter, odd places, mirrors, viewing occasion, outdoor, appeal versus bug sloths, sex shops, mainstream resource, les anneaux, penis rings, penis expansions, doubtful impact, carezza, prolonged non-ejaculatory bonding, ligatage, bondage, gentle art, consent vital, uragoose, dildos, vibrators, solo partner pleasure, pain, should not hurt normally, discipline, erotic beating test on self, respect limits, no anger, group sex, tricky motivation, need rules, opt-outs, Viennese oyster, position, slow masturbation for him, technique for delay.
Wow, that covers a lot. Finally, what about resources if people need more help?
Absolutely. Book stresses, seeking help if joy is missing. Find reliable books, qualified counselors for poor matters. List organizations. GLBT support, eating disorders, infertility, menopause, general sexual health sites. Mention sensual massage books too.
Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive into the joy of sex, what are the absolute key takeaways for our listeners?
I think it boils down to exploration is good, communication is essential, and prioritize mutual pleasure. Always within that foundation of love and respect. The possibilities are huge. Find what works uniquely for you as a couple.
And a final thought to leave everyone with. Something to chew on.
Maybe reflect on anything we discussed that sparks your interest. A new idea, a technique, a perspective. Consider exploring it gently, openly with your partner. Remember that spirit of adventure. Ultimately, the real joy is in the connection you build together, that unique shared experience.